Hi, my name is Miss Brandy. What's your name? Well, it is so good to meet you because we're going to have a lot of fun together this year, okay? You should have a box that has a sticker on it with a turkey that says Fall Art Kit, okay? And in that box, you're going to have some really cool art and craft supplies. You're going to get 3 of these boxes this year while you're at school, okay? You'll get one in the fall, one in the winter, and one in the spring, okay? And each time you get a box, you're also going to get this video like this where I show you step by step exactly what to do to create this really cool artwork, okay? And you're probably going to look at some of the pictures before we start our project and see what it's supposed to look like when we're finished. And you're probably going to think to yourself, that looks so hard. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. But I promise you, you can do this. You are going to amaze yourself, okay? And if it doesn't look just like my artwork when we're done, that's okay. This is your artwork and it's going to look exactly the way it's supposed to because you made it, okay? All right, so first thing is to open up your box and see what's inside. Are you ready? Awesome. All right, so here's your box and you're gonna open it up and look at all that cool stuff inside. All right, first thing you're gonna see is this really yummy sucker. This is a caramel apple sucker. This is one of my favorites in the fall. Now, be sure to ask a grown-up if you can have this right now or if you're allergic to it before you go eating it, okay? Ask for permission, all right? That's just a little special treat for me to you. All right, and then we've got some really fancy paint brushes. That's like what the professional artists use. And we've got some watercolor paints. And we've got some black paint. Now, this is called acrylic paint. If you get it on your clothes or tablecloth or something like that, it will not come off. So before you start doing the scratch art project, be sure to put on an apron or a smock or wear clothes that you don't mind getting paint on because it's not going to wash out, okay? It will come off of your skin and off of like a table surface, but we just need to be very, very careful, okay? And then you'll have a stick. Yours might be a different color than mine, and it's going to have 2 very pointy, sharp ends. So let's be very, very careful with that. This is for your artwork only, all right? You should not be using this for anything else other than your artwork. And then you'll have a little cup. You're going to use that for some water. And you'll have this little box with this nice little sunshine on it. These are called oil pastels. They're you use them kind of like a crayon, but they're a little bit different. So you'll see what those are all about when we do that project. And then you'll have a rectangle, a white rectangle of paper, and then a bigger rectangle of paper. See how those are different sizes? All right. Okay, so that's all your stuff, and we're gonna make 2 really cool art projects with this stuff right here, okay? So let's move to our first project. Okay, so because we're using the acrylic paint, this project you're going to want to use a apron or a smock or wear clothes that you don't mind getting paint on just in case we make a little bit of a mess, all right? And we're actually going to do our project inside of our box to help with the mess. So be sure to have your box, your black paint, your paint brushes, your little scratch stick, your oil pastels, and your smaller white rectangle of paper. Not the big one, but the smaller one. You'll see that the big rectangle, it's rougher, and this is a little bit smoother, okay? So you're gonna have these things, and I want you to just set your paper right down in the bottom of your box, all right? Okay, so first things first is to open up our oil pastels. Sometimes my camera wants to act funny, okay? All right, so we're gonna open this up If you need a grown-up to help you do this, that's okay. Always ask for help and wait your turn while your teacher helps somebody else. All right, so we're gonna take that off. And what do we always do with our trash? What do? We throw it away, or we recycle it if we can, right? All right, so I'm gonna throw this away. All right, so you just slide this out just like that, and look at all those pretty bright colors. Look at that. Okay, all right, so have you ever done scratch art before? It looks like a black piece of paper, and then you start scratching on it, and all of these colors are underneath the black where you've scratched, and you can make really cool pictures with them. Well, if you have done that, you're gonna make your very own scratch art. And if you've never done it before, done scratch art, then you're gonna have like a wonderful time doing this, because it is a complete surprise when you start scratching away at that black paint and see all those bright colors underneath. So it is fall, and there's 3 colors that come to mind when you think of fall, and that is orange, yellow, and red, because the leaves start turning those colors, and you know, Thanksgiving and turkeys and all that, you tend to see these colors. So I'm going to use these 3 colors, but you can use any of these colors that you want, okay? You can use all of them. I just wouldn't use the black or the white, because that's not going to show up very well when you go to scratch. The black won't show up at all. The white will show up, but you know, you could have a pop of color instead of white, okay? All right, so I wouldn't use those 2. You can if you want to, but I'm not going to use them. You can use any of these. You make it how you want, okay? But I'm gonna stick to these 3 colors, all right? So I've got my 3 oil pastels. Now, like I said before, they're like crayons, but they're softer, okay? So I'm gonna start with orange. And I'm just gonna start over here in the corner of my paper, and I'm just gonna rub. Now you see I'm using like the edge of it. You can go straight down. I just use the edge. It just seems to work better. All right, and I'm just gonna color a small patch like that. And then I'm gonna pick up my red, and then I'm gonna do another patch. I'll go this way. You do it however you want. This part, you just do what your heart tells you. Okay, so I've done my red, and then I'm gonna do yellow. I'm gonna come right underneath here. And I want you to get these colors to where they touch, okay? You see how the red and the orange, they touch? All right, and it's okay if some of the other colors come down into the color next to it, that's okay. All right, it's got a big section of yellow, and then I'm gonna go back to my orange. And I'm just gonna keep creating these different shapes. Now I'm mostly making squares and rectangles, but you can make circles, triangles, all kinds of stuff. Do whatever you want. Okay. See how we're going there? And this part goes pretty fast. It's really quick. The longest thing to do in this art project is just waiting on your paint to dry when we get to that point. Make a little smaller section right there. Another small section right here. I think I'll make this yellow right here, up next to this red and orange. And maybe put a little bit more orange right there too. I said there's really no wrong way to go about doing this part. Back to my yellow. I think I'll go down here. Now remember, if you're doing all these other colors instead of orange and yellow and red, you just kind of do it how I'm doing it. Just make your own shapes. No big deal. orange right here, and I'm almost done. If you need to pause the video and catch up, that is totally fine. Okay, so now I've got my whole paper covered. I'm gonna go grab a paper towel, and you're gonna need a paper towel too, okay? So I'll be right back in just a flash. Alrighty, when you get your paper covered, be sure to grab a paper towel because you're gonna need it to wipe these off of your fingers, okay? Alright, so if you have not finished coloring in your paper, you can just pause the video and press start when you're ready. But I'm gonna keep moving, okay? All right, so what you're gonna do is take your finger and you're going to rub these colors in. And you can try to get it to where you don't see any white underneath that color. If some is showing, that's okay. But I'm gonna rub just the orange spots first. And go up and down, side to side. Rub in a circle, but I'm just going to do all the same color right now. You see how nicely they smooth out and blend together? This is called blending. Blending. All right. Now that I've rubbed all the orange ones, this is where my paper towel comes in. I'm gonna wipe my finger. See? I'm just gonna try to get some of that off. I think next I'll do yellow. I'm going all the way to the edge of the other colors. Now you see how I brought some of that red up into that yellow? That's okay. That's all right. It's still going to look really, really cool in the end. And in fact, you know what happens? Red mixed with yellow makes orange. So really, you just got more orange right there. And that is okay. All right. Get this one right here. Now my fingers are bigger than yours, so I'm probably getting this done a little bit faster than your little fingers can go. Just remember, you can always pause the video and catch up. I'll be right here when you're ready. Okay, I've gotten the yellows done. I'm gonna wipe my finger one more time, and I might use a different fingertip this time. Just try to keep these reds as red as possible. Okay, see there? You just keep working away at it. Whew. It can get tiring. If this was a bigger piece of paper, it would take a lot longer, wouldn't it? But I gave you a smaller piece of paper. Artists use their hands a lot in their artwork. It's not always just brushes and pencils. All right, so I've got all my colors blended together, and I'm gonna wipe my hands. Okay, I'm gonna set this to the side because it can be used for our next project, okay? All right, whenever you're ready, whenever you're done with those, you can put your oil pastels back in the box. Put them back in their little sleeve. And you're going to use these for your next project too. So hang on to them until you're done with that one, okay? Alrighty. So next we're going to put black paint on top of this. Now you're probably thinking, Miss Brandy, You're not gonna see all of that color if you cover it up with black. Trust me, okay? Just trust me. So you're gonna have your little bottle of black paint. Now you're gonna need a grown-up to help you open this, okay? So whenever you can get help opening it up, we're gonna take the lid off and just set that lid down in a spot where you're not gonna get paint on anything, okay? Now some of you may have like a little dropper where you squeeze it out, and then some of yours you don't, okay? That's how the bottles came. So if you don't have a stopper like mine, you're just going to carefully turn this over onto the paper and just start kind of squeezing and tapping until that paint starts to come out. All right, just like that. You're gonna tap all over. Try your hardest not to get it on your hands. Just be real careful. But if you do, it wipes off your hands. Remember that. It doesn't come off of clothes, but it does come off your hands. And if you have the little dropper, you just gotta do some good squeezing to get that paint out of there. All right, so I think I have enough paint on my paper. So for now, I'm gonna put the lid back on. Be sure to twist it and set it in a safe space. All right. And then you're gonna take your paintbrushes and open those up. Now I'm gonna go for the biggest paintbrush I have in here. So we're gonna open it up, which turn it to the back, and on the bottom of the package, there will be a little tab. All right, and we're going to grab the biggest paintbrush. Okay, you see how that looks? All right, and on the handle, sorry, I couldn't think of the word, the handle of it, it's gonna have the numbers 5/8. So 5 and then a line and an 8. That's the brush you're wanting to use, okay? Because this is a big brush and we got a lot of paper to paint, all right? So one thing to know when you're using paintbrushes is never mash down, okay? You don't want to mash down. You want to use your paintbrush side to side, just like that, side to side. Because what happens when you mash it down, all these bristles that are all nice and straight get damaged and messed up, and they fray out like that, and it's really hard to paint with them after that. So you can keep these really nice paintbrushes for a long time if you take care of them, use them correctly, and wash them out when you're done with them, okay? All right, so remember, using our side to side sweep technique, we are going to do just like that, side to side, and we're gonna move that paint all across our paper. And we're gonna go from all the way from one edge to the other edge. We don't wanna see any of those colors underneath. And it's gonna slide around, and that's okay. Just use a finger to hold it down in a corner, okay? Side to side. And the thicker you make this paint, the better your scratch art effect will be. Side to side. And then when you get up to the corner where you were holding, you can always just come down here and kind of hold it down where you've painted. Just be careful and be sure to wipe your hand before you go touching anything else, okay? So I'm going to go side to side. Now that I've gotten it from top to bottom, I'm gonna start sweeping this way and just get rid of some of these lines of paint, okay? We're gonna smooth it out. And you can get rid of this extra paint on your paintbrush with your paper towel. Just wipe, okay? And that gets a lot of that extra paint off. And then put that in a safe spot. All right, so now I'm gonna go up, down, up, down. And you'll see that it's getting rid of a lot of the extra paint that's on there. When you don't have so much paint, it dries a lot faster and you can get moving on your art project. You don't have to wait so long for it to dry. remember just to go edge to edge. Fill the whole paper out with that black paint. Don't let any color show. And just be very gentle and take your time. Okie dokie. I've got a little bit extra on there, so I'm going to open this up, wipe it off, close that up to where you can't see any wet paint anywhere, set that in a safe space. And then while this dries, because you have to let it dry completely before we go on to the next step, you're going to rinse your paintbrush out real good, okay? All right, I'll see you back here when it's dry. All right, so now that all of your paint has dried, you can touch it, nothing's coming off on your hands. All right, you are going to keep it in your box and you're gonna grab your stick. Now you'll see that one is just a pointy end like a toothpick all the way around, and then the other one is kind of flat on a side and still pointy on the end, but it's got a flat side, okay? The first thing we're going to use is the pointy end that looks like a toothpick, okay? Now be very careful with these, okay? All right, we're going to be big kids with these, and we're going to keep them on the paper, and that's it. And when you're done, you can throw it away, okay? All right, so are you ready to see what happens when you scratch on this? Yeah? All right, we will get to that, I promise. All right, so since it's fall and we have lots of really pretty leaves falling on the ground right now, I'm gonna draw some leaves on this, okay? Now you can draw whatever you want to, but if you wanna follow along with me, I can show you how to draw some really cool leaves, all right? So the first thing I'm gonna do is put my stick pointy side down on the paper, and I'm just gonna drag across. Look at there. You see that? You'll see all your colors poking through. Now this is going to be the stem for our leaf. All right, that little line that runs down the middle of your leaf. All right, and I'm just going to go back down it a little bit. And you can also so this makes really thin, little small lines. And if you use the one with the flat end, you'll make bigger lines. Okay, see, just like that. And so on this end down here, I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger by coming just to the side of it. Okay, let me show you what I'm doing. Okay, can you see that? I made almost like a little bitty Y at the end. All right, and then I'm going to join this line and this line together with another line. Alrighty, so I've taken my stick and I've followed that first line that I made, and just towards the bottom I've kind of branched off and made another line over here to the side, which made kind of a Y shape, and then I connected those two lines with another line right here at the bottom. So I'm just going to see if you can see that. No. All right, and then I'm going to take my stick and I'm just going to scratch off the rest of what is in between those lines and make this little triangle shape, okay? Now that is the end of our leaf stem that attaches to the branch. All right, it's always a little bit thicker than the rest of it. Okay, I'm going to go back to using my very, very pointy toothpick type end, and I'm going to create the leaf shape. All right, so I'm going to start right here just above where I made it wide, and I'm going to come up and I'm going to create this kind of rounded shape. And I'm going to come back, but then I'm going to curve up like this. Okay, and I'm going to come down. So you see what kind of shape I'm making there? Cool. All right, and I'm using these very rounded shapes. And I'm going to come up way over the line, and then I'm going to try to do the same sort of shape coming up and down. All right, so you see that kind of looks like a leaf, or at least it's starting to look like a leaf, huh? And then now that you've got your basic shape, you can go in with that side with the flat end, and you can kind of make these a little bit wider. Just follow your line as best as you can. Now remember, you can be drawing whatever picture you want, but I'm doing leaves because it's fall and there's lots of pretty leaves on the ground. All right. And I'm making my lines bigger because I want to see more of that pretty color underneath. See how it's starting to look? Doesn't it look awesome? Now you'll see that this paper that I have that I'm working on right now, it has more colors than what I used a little while ago. It has blues and greens and purples. And that's because I made this one before I started making my video so that it would be dry and I wouldn't have to wait a very long time. So that is okay. That's what people call movie magic. All right, so now that I've got my leaf shape, I'm gonna go in and put in all those little lines. Have you ever looked at a leaf and it's got all these little lines running all through it? That's the veins of the leaf, okay? So what I'm gonna do is always start at this middle line, this stem part, and I'm gonna make a line into each one of these lobes. That's what you call that on a leaf, is a lobe, kind of like your earlobe. All right, and I'm going to take this one up like that, and I'm going to leave that one alone for now. I'm just going to focus on these side ones. Okay, and now I'm not going all the way to the end. You see I'm leaving some space there. All right. And then off of these lines, I'm going to make even more little lines. So I'm going to start on that line I made right there. And I'm just going to create these other little lines. You see that? Doesn't that start to look like a leaf? Drawing leaves is one of my favorite things to do. They're so easy, but they look really cool when you're done. And off of those lines that I made, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna make even smaller ones. And I'm gonna make them in this kind of a wavy little way. I'm not gonna make them very straight. I'm gonna kind of make them a little wavy. All right, so you see how I'm doing that? All right, so I'm just gonna keep doing that same thing to all of these other ones. Now, you might not know this yet, but Miss Brandy has a superpower. I can go into super speed mode with just a snap of my fingers. And when I go into super speed mode, I want you to take your time. You can pause the video if you need to, but it just helps me to get done a little bit faster so I can keep on shooting the video for the other projects, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go super speed mode. You keep on working at your own pace, okay? Ready, set, Whew, my goodness. That was a lot of work. All right, but look at that. Does yours look anything like that, or did you do your own thing, or is it not looking like it? If it's not looking like this, or you don't like how your project is turning out, or you kind of scratched right here like I did with your hand and didn't mean to, the really cool thing about scratch art is you can take your black paint, put some more on there, cover all of that up, let it dry, and you can start all over again. It's basically like an eraser for your scratch art, okay? You just put black paint on there, start again, no big deal. But you just keep working at it, take your time. Now you don't have to put as many lines as there as I do. You could do just the center line, like the first line that we made, and the leaf shape around it, and call it a day. You can do several of them on here. So like I'm gonna make a different leaf over here. I'm gonna make my center line. I'm gonna switch it around to the side with the flat part. Okay, and you see I'm just kind of making it a little bit curved, okay? And I'm gonna make a different leaf shape this time, something much easier. I'm just going to start at my line down here, come up and around, just like that. And then I'm going to start at the same spot down here, but on the other side of the line. And I'm going to do the same thing, but in the opposite direction. You see? Sometimes you have to really scratch it to get it to work right. And see, now you have a different leaf shape. And then if you want to do the same thing, you can come off with your little veins, always going towards the tip of the leaf. Make your lines go kind of in that direction. See, just like that. All right, and then you can come off and make your smaller lines just like you did on your other leaf. If that's what you're doing. You might be doing something different, and that's okay. Scratch art is so cool because you can draw any picture that you want, and it's always going to look amazing because of all these bright colors underneath. It adds a really cool effect. That black paint really make all these colors stand out. So you see, now you've got a different leaf shape. It's all rainbow underneath. How cool is that? Now I've also got this spot down here, okay? So I think I'm gonna do an acorn. You wanna see a really easy acorn shape? Cool. All right, so I'm gonna create a line going across. You'll notice that most drawings start off with a simple line. And then over here, I'm gonna kind of make a rounded shape. Rounded. See? And this is gonna be the acorn top. I'm coming around like that. So I've got a flat line, a straight line on the bottom, and then a curved line on top. Okay, and that's the top of the acorn. And then I'm gonna come right here, and I'm also gonna make another rounded but longer shape, and then kind of come down like that. It makes a little point at the bottom. You see? And then same thing over here. I'm gonna start right here, at this corner. I'm gonna come down and then start to come over and meet that little point right there. Okay, so now we've got the little acorn top and the little acorn. Now acorns have a little stem on top, so we're going to make a line at the top and then another line beside it, and then another line at the top that connects those. Okay, all right, I'm going to make this little hat look like it's just a little bit bigger than the acorn by coming in there over to the sides and just making those lines a little bit thicker. Look at that pretty green color. Okay, so we're starting to get an acorn shape. And acorns have, the top has this rough texture to it. So we're gonna do something called cross hatching. So cross hatching is just making lines beside each other like this, going in the same direction. All right. They all are side by side, just like that. And then to cross hatch it, I'm going to cross them in the other direction. So I'm going to go this way. Easy peasy. All right. And acorns are a little bit shiny, so I'm going to create a little reflective light right here by making kind of a triangle shape. See, I've just made this little, you don't have to do it, but it just kind of makes it look like it's rounded a little bit and that it's shiny and reflecting light. Okay, so doesn't that look so cool? Now you can keep going in here and all of the dark areas, that's called negative space, and putting anything you want in there, you know? But you do want to leave enough of the black on there so that your picture pops out, that you can see it, you know, and it doesn't get all lost in everything else. But again, if you are not liking the way that yours is looking, just take some black paint, paint over it, and start again. Or you can always use this same technique with the oil pastels first and then new paint on top on any thick paper, okay? You see how this paper, it's not like what you write on for your work. It's thicker, okay? This is called Bristol vellum, or you could use cardstock, okay? But any thicker paper will do, okay? All right, I hope you've had a ton of fun doing this scratch art with me, and I hope that you really love what you've created. All right, good job. Okay, are you ready for our next project? Me too. All right, so we're gonna do a watercolor landscape. Landscape just means that it is a picture of the outdoors. So land, water, sky, mountains, trees, flowers, anything you can find in the outdoors. And I really love landscapes because they're always just very peaceful and pretty. So we're gonna do a fall landscape. So it's gonna have lots of yellows and beautiful fall colors like that. Okay, so what you're gonna need is your paintbrushes, your watercolors, your oil pastels, your little plastic cup with some clean water in it. And I'm doing mine on top of some paper towels as my work surface, but you'll also need some other paper towels for wiping brushes and things like that, okay? I've already used mine. And then you'll also need your bigger white rectangle of paper, okay? And you'll see that this paper is a little different. It's got a rougher surface. It's very rough. This is watercolor paper. So it's made for these watercolors, which get very wet with all the water you're gonna add to it. And that would make other normal paper just kind of curl up and bend as it dries. And this won't do that, okay? So the first thing you're gonna do is get your oil pastels again. Now you are going to grab the white one, okay? You're gonna grab white, but I'm gonna do this in blue so that you can see what I'm doing on this white paper, because white doesn't show up on white paper very well. So you use the white, I'm gonna use the blue, and then I'm gonna turn my paper over and do it in white as well, so our projects look the same in the end, okay? But I'm just doing it in blue so you can see what I'm doing, okay? So you're gonna find the top of your paper. So this is the top, the middle, and the bottom, okay? So the top is what is furthest away from you. And up here in the top, we're gonna make a circle, okay? This is gonna be a sun, actually. But we're gonna make a circle, and we're gonna color in that circle, okay? But when you color it in, I really want you to press hard, okay? I want you to press really, really hard with that white. Now I know it's gonna be hard to see what you're doing with the white on the white paper, but just take your time, okay? Yeah, we don't wanna see hardly any of that white paper showing through your white oil pastel. Okay, so you see I've gotten it good and colored in by pressing pretty hard on my paper, okay? And then I'm also gonna come in when I'm done with that, and I'm just gonna create some lines right there, just at the bottom. You don't have to do that, but in the end you'll see why I did that, okay? No big deal if you don't. And I've left my edges of my circle a little fuzzy, okay? I didn't like draw a hard outline of a circle. I just kind of did a light one and then colored it in real good, but I left the edges kind of fuzzy. All right. So then you're gonna leave some space underneath your sun, okay? Leave a little space, come down and just draw a little line, just like that. And remember, use the edge of your oil pastel, okay? You don't have to go straight down. Use the edge where it's kind of sharp. Use the edge and make a good solid line, just like that. And then come down a little bit, just right underneath it, and do the same thing, just a little bit bigger, okay? And then keep doing that, and as you go down, make bigger and bigger lines. And really press hard to get those lines nice and solid, just like you did with your circle, so you don't see a lot of white, okay? Some of them will be a little bit lighter than others, but then you can go back and create darker lines. So you see what I'm doing there? All right, and just take your time with it, okay? And just as you go down, just keep making them a little bit longer. And then once you've got some longer lines, you can start making them a little bit smaller again. See, I'm kind of going over my lines twice to really get them colored in. And then I'm gonna stop right there, and I'm gonna leave some space at the bottom. All right, so you see what I've done there? All right. So why are we doing this? I thought you said we were doing watercolors, Miss Brandy. Well, when you put the watercolor down on this paper, it's not going to stick where we've put the oil pastel. Yeah, it's called resist, okay? Resist. The oil pastel resists the watercolor. It doesn't allow it to go through, okay? So that's gonna create a really cool effect when you're using that white oil pastel, okay? That just means the watercolor won't go there, all right? But it is important to make sure that you go in and make some really strong lines with that white pastel to really cover that paper, because if you see a lot of paper behind that oil pastel, then it's not going to do a really good job of resisting. Okay, so that's what I've got. All right, so you keep working on that. You catch up with me. Be sure to ask a grown-up for help if you need it, okay? And I'm gonna turn my paper over, and I'm gonna do the same thing, but with white, just like you're doing, and I'm gonna go into super speed mode, okay? So we can catch up and work together, okay? Okay, so you see I've done it, but you can't really see it on this camera because it's white on top of white. And so now I should have something that looks more like what you've been doing, okay? All right, so I'm just gonna get all the little crumbs off of my page. All right, so hopefully you've caught up some, and we can move on to the next step, which is finally our watercolors. All right, so I'm just gonna put away my oil pastels for now. All right, so first thing you're gonna do is open up your watercolors. Kind of set them off to the side, not on top of your paper. And then we're gonna open up these paintbrushes. Now I know it comes with this paintbrush, but we're not gonna use that one, okay? We're gonna set that to the side. We're gonna open up these and take them out. You can keep this around for when you're done, and then you can put them back in the package for safekeeping. Okay, and I've got my water. I'm gonna move my water a little bit closer to my paint so I don't have to drip across my paper. All right, so you've got all of these paintbrushes. Which one are we gonna use, Miss Brandy? All right, we're gonna grab the one. It's flat, but it also has a rounded tip. And on the handle, it will say 4. There's a number 4 on there, okay? All right, so what you're gonna do is dip your paintbrush in your water, and I want to use blue, but I don't want to use this bright, bright, bright blue how it is in your palette. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of black to make it darker, okay? When you add black to things, it makes it darker. So the first thing I'm going to do is add some water to my blue. Just kind of dip your paintbrush in your water, then place it on the blue and just keep dipping and stuff, okay? And then I'm just gonna tap it just like that, and then that gets your paint ready for use. All right, so now that I've got the blue one wet, I'm gonna dip my paintbrush again, and ooh, look at that water turning blue. And then I'm gonna do the same thing but with my black one, but I don't have to add as much. I only need a little bit. I'm not gonna do as much as I did for the blue. And then I'm gonna rinse it off. Okay, and then dab my paintbrush off just to kind of dry it a little bit. Now I'm going to dip it in the black. Now you see I've just got a little bit of black on my brush, and then I'm going to put that in the blue, and that's going to make the blue darker. Okay, and I'm going to do it one more time. Put it in the blue and mix it up, and now I've got a darker blue. That's exactly what I want. It almost looks a little bit like the purple next to it, but when you put it on the paper, it'll look more blue. Okay, so now that I've got my blue paint mixed, and I've got plenty on my brush, I've got my brush all loaded up, I'm gonna find that space that we made between the sun, the bottom of the sun, and where we started those little lines. And I'm going to go to the edge of my paper over here, and I'm going to put my paintbrush down, and I'm just going to drag it across just like that. All right, I'm just going to drag it across one more time. Okay, all right, so very important, again, like we learned in the last video, don't mash straight down. Hold it to the side a little bit and just drag it across, okay? All right, great job. Okay, and then I'm gonna put a little bit more on my paintbrush. I'm just gently tapping it. Just tap it in there. You don't have to mash down. You don't have to stir it too much. Just tap, okay? We can be very gentle with these paints. We don't have to be too rough. And then over here on this side of the paper, I'm gonna come put my paintbrush down on the line again, but this time I'm gonna go up and down, just like that. I've created this little bump. And then I'm gonna kind of color it in, just gently using this sideways motion, just sweeping side to side like how we did with our black paint on our scratch art. I'm gonna give it another dip. And then I think I'll create another little hill right here. So this is what we're creating. We're creating little mountains or hills in the background of this picture. And I think I'll create another one right here. I'm just going to go to the very edge of the paper. And you can create some more little bumpy shapes on there if you want to, or you can keep them kind of smooth. So you've just created some mountains. All right. I know you're like, mountain, that don't look like no mountain. Just trust me, okay? So now you've got what's called a horizon. That's when you look out into the land and you see sky and either the land or the water and where they meet, okay? So this is our sky up here where our sun is. And this is actually going to be a lot of water down here, okay? All right, so this is where the land in the background is with some mountains. Okay, so we're going to let that dry a little bit. And we're going to rinse this brush off real good. And we're going to dry it off just by kind of swiping it on our paper towel, just like that, okay? And then we're going to take our biggest brush in our set that we have right now, and it's going to have a number 8. It's going to have a number 8 on the handle, and you see it's bigger. It's bigger than all the other brushes, okay? And now we're going to create our yellow. So again, just dip your brush in your water and then take that water over to your yellow, just like that. Just kind of put some water in that yellow paint. And then kind of give it some dabs, get it mixed up. Now we're going to need a lot of this yellow, so we're going to put a lot of water, okay? Also, the really cool thing with watercolors is the more water you add, the lighter your color is going to be. And if you don't use very much water, then your color that you put on your paper is darker. Okay, so now that we've got our yellow really, really wet with a lot of water, and I've kind of spilled out of my little container right there, but that's okay. All right. We are going to start painting our sky. Now, why did we pick our biggest brush? Well, it's because we have a lot of area to cover here, because all this is going to be yellow and all that's going to be yellow. So a bigger brush just makes it go faster, okay? That's what bigger brushes are for, is for painting a big area. Okay, so we're going to start over here on one edge and do that sweeping motion just like we did with our black paint and our scratch art. Very good. Now you want to make sure as you go over here by the sun that your paint is really, really wet, okay? Because what's going to happen is you're going to see that that paint does not want to go where we drew that sun. It'll go over it a little bit, but it'll kind of almost bead up over it and not want to go there. It's not going to stick to the paper, okay? Now, you can come down to your mountains, and it's okay if you kind of paint over them a little bit, but you want to try to kind of go around them, okay? So just kind of come around your mountains. And you don't have to go edge to edge. It's okay if it's kind of lighter over here on the edges. Now I'm gonna rinse my paintbrush off a little bit and just get some nice water, kind of dab it off a little bit, and kind of go over this area where our sun was to move some of that paint off of it. Okay, see how I'm doing that? I'm just gonna clean it off a little bit. I'm gonna take my paper towel and I'm just gonna dab it down just like that. I'm gonna take my finger, kind of rub it around and get that paint to show us our sun a little bit better. Okay, so can you see that now? See how the paint didn't want to stick where you put that oil pastel? Yeah. Okay. And so we're going to do the same thing, but down here, the whole bottom, we're going to keep working with the yellow. Okay. Make sure that as you're working, you're adding a little bit more water to your yellow watercolor paint so you have plenty to work with, okay? I'm gonna start over here on the side. Got a little hair right there. Move that out of the way. Sometimes the bristles fall out. Now you'll see that as you move along those lines that you created down here, same thing with the sun, it doesn't want to stick. The wetter your paint is, the better this works, okay? So don't be afraid to get this really, really wet. I'm almost dipping my brush in water each time that I use my paint. And we're coming all the way down to the bottom with our paint. And it's okay if it gets a little bit darker or lighter here at the bottom. Okay. All right, I'm gonna let you catch up. But this is what we have going on. I'm gonna change this a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so it's kind of hard to see in this light, but you'll have these white lines coming through and your sun right there and everything else is yellow and you've got your mountains right here, okay? So what you've created is the reflection of the sun on the water. You know how when you look out at water, you've got these white stripes or patches in it? Well, guess what? You just did that with watercolor, okay? Good job. All right, so now we're going to create a tree right here. Like it's right in front of you and you're seeing all this behind it, okay? Now this is a tricky one, okay? But you can do this. I believe in you. You believe in yourself. We're gonna go back to using that same brush that we used for the mountains. So the brush that says 4 on the handle, okay? And this time I'm going to use, let's see, I'm going to use our black this time. I'm going to use our black. Actually, I'm going to use the black, but I'm also going to use brown. Brown is all the way here at the other end of your palette. So here's black by the red. Here's brown down here by purple. We're going to get our brown nice and wet. Okay. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of black to that because I don't want just straight black, but I don't want just straight brown either. I want kind of a mixture. Okay. So trees are a little bit tricky. It took me a long time to learn how to do it. I'm still not great, but I still like making them. But trees have to have some ground to sit on, right? So we're gonna create like a little hill here, okay? So I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just gonna create this kind of mound shape. I'm just gonna go back and forth, creating some land for this tree to sit on. It's like a little island. I'm just going to come out here. Nothing has to be perfect. And sometimes things don't look like there's meant to in the very beginning, but the more you paint and the more you add to it, the more it looks like what it's supposed to be. Okay, and I'm just gonna get my color a little bit wetter, and I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna create some darker shapes. Okay, just by tap, 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 tap. Cool thing about watercolors is the more you add to it, the darker it can be or the lighter it can be. Okay, so I've just kind of created this little blob, this little hill. Okay, I'm gonna get some more of my brown and black paint mixed up. Okay, how's yours looking? Is it looking a little bit like mine? Again, just gonna put some black paint in there with my brown. Okay. Now, time for the tree finally. So we've got some ground for the tree to sit on. I'm going to take my brush. Now you see, I'm not gonna go down, I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna go up. So I'm gonna start down here and I'm going to go up and over a little bit. And I'm dragging and then lift up. Okay, I'm gonna drag and lift up. Just go whoop, okay? But you don't wanna go all the way up, okay? Just kind of stop somewhere in here. Okay, and then I'm gonna come down beside it and I'm gonna do it again, but this time I'm gonna make them join together, just like that. You see that? I'm gonna fill in that space right there. All right, so now we've got a tree trunk. And now we can go in and make the branches of the tree, okay? And this time I'm gonna hold my paintbrush like this and I'm gonna work to the side. Okay, so I'm gonna create these shapes just like this and maybe go up a little bit, just like that. We'll come over to this side and create one kind of overhanging, just like that. So you're starting to make a tree with its big branches. All right. I think I'll make this one go up a little bit too. And then I'll come over here on this side, do the same thing. Okay. And then we're going to create one coming up like this. All right. And I think I'll add just a little bit, little bitty ones, just little ones right in here to kind of fill in some space. All right. Okay, so I'm going to rinse that brush off and let you catch up. I'm going to set this brush to the side. And now I'm going to grab a different brush, okay? So you'll see that almost all the rest of your brushes are more round, okay? We're going to grab the brush that has the 5 on it, the number 5. Okay, it's gonna have a number 5. I can barely see mine, but it is there. So on the handle, you'll see the number 5. Just gonna kind of loosen that up a little bit. Get a little bit water on there. Dip it in my brown paint, same color we've been using. Okay, now these round pointy brushes are really great for making very small shapes. So like these little branches coming up. Okay. See that? So I'm just going to touch it to the branch and go up. And maybe this one go down and over. Down and over. I bet you're doing great. And if you need help, don't hesitate to ask a grown-up for help. This is pretty tricky. I do think that you can do it. I believe in you. But practice makes perfect. The more you do things like this, the better you get at it. Okay? So I'm just going in and I'm just making these little lines for my branches. Come in over here. Again, don't ever mash straight down on your paint brushes. You want to drag them across the paper. Okay. Just be very careful. Go slow, take your time. You don't have to rush. Art can be very relaxing because it kind of makes you slow down. I think I will do, well, you know what? Actually, I like that just the way it is, okay? Sometimes you got to know when to stop. But you just keep going until you like your tree, okay? I'm just going to clean my paintbrush off. And I will let you catch up, and I'm going to let this dry. You want to let this dry until before we move on to the next step, okay? I'll see you back here when it's dry. Okay, so my paint is dry. I hope yours is too. And so we're going to keep moving along with this. All right, so we're going to grab this brush, which is not one of the pointy brushes. It's got a flat end and it has the number 6 on it. Number 6. All right, now we're going to create some leaves on our trees, and we're going to use the same brush and the same brown paint. I know you're like, brown, 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 but these colors together look very good. Okay, and we don't have to have it as dark as we just did it, so we're just going to add some more paint. Just add some more paint and you'll see that it gets lighter, okay? We're not going to add any more black to this, okay? And again, I'm just going to take the side of my brush and I'm just going to start up here in these tops of these branches, and I'm just going to tap, 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 tap. I'll come out to the side, even where there's not a branch, and just keep on tapping. Okay, so now we've got something that looks like that. So I'm just tapping, tap, 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 all over, and leave some yellow space in between where you're tapping. Okay, I'm gonna dip my paintbrush one more time, and I'm gonna move over here, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna tap, tap, tap. I'm just creating little spots. That's all I'm doing. Nothing crazy. A little bit more. I'm gonna come over here. Some spots can be smaller or larger. Some can be darker or lighter. This really gives the look of leaves on a tree. Okay, just tap, tap, tap. Now you can make your tree as full of leaves as you want. Even over here where I've put the oil pastels, I'm going to do it, okay? But yeah, you can make your tree as full of leaves as you want, or you can make it look like all the leaves have fallen off and just leave the leaves out completely, okay? I'm going to do most of my branches so you can really see what that looks like with our leaves on it. Come in here, go into the spaces in between the branches. All right. Okay. So you can see that I've created this tree shape. Look at that. It's amazing what just some spots can do, huh? All right, so when you're done with the brown leaves, we're going to add a little bit of orange to this picture by getting our orange paint wet. You'll see that that color from your water that you've been using already makes it a little bit murkier than how the orange looks in the pan. All fresh and new. Really going to mix that up. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to go in here, but I'm not going to do as many. I'm just going to do a few dots here and there. Okay. Just dot, 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 dot. Really mix it up. Your shades of orange will change. Come out here where I haven't put any dots yet and make some more. Down here. All right. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing but with the red. So I'm going to add a lot of water to my red. A lot of water in there. And again, you'll see that your kind of used water makes the red not so bright, which is what we want. We don't want it bright, bright red. Okay, I'm going to come in here and create some little dots of that red. Very good, very nice. So you see now this is starting to look like a tree that its leaves are turning colors because it's fall time. Very pretty. Okay, you know what? I think that I'm done. So I'm gonna rinse my paintbrush off one last time, dry it off on my napkin, and I'm gonna let this dry. And now you've created this beautiful watercolor landscape with a sky and water with its reflection, a little bit of mountains peeking through the tree, and a tree. You've done a lot with this, haven't you? Okay, well, you keep working away, or if you're done, that's fine. And I will see you back here when you get your winter art kit, okay? Great job.